So moving on to the final question. It's going to be a fun question. So if you were to do one game, right? If you were to do one game, the budget is not the question, the art direction is not the question, the direction, the vision of the game, it could be any kind of game. What kind of game would it be, and what kind of culture, the cultural heritage will you infuse? And yeah, that's basically my last question. What would that be for you? Okay, I'll give a bit of like 10 seconds for them to think. So it's basically something that you think, yeah, it'll be fun to do. It could be something that you always have the itch to do, yeah. Or it could be something that's really challenging that you want to tackle on as well. So, go ahead.
I'm still thinking. Nothing comes up now.
Okay. I will fail at answering the question. I'll tell you why. For the past 3 years, I've been focusing on teaching game design. And the thing that's very important to me is that I need to discover the rules of game design that is not slanted towards any culture, any perspective, or any bias. Because I need to teach pure game design. It must be something that I can teach to anyone and they can apply anywhere. So I haven't thought about how to design a game that represents a specific culture for a long, long time. And even now, after just Buzz mentioned, like, okay, do I want to implement anything based on any particular culture? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. So, sorry, I'm going to fail there.
You can go.
Yeah, again, this is one of the problem people like us that go
I fail,
through.
so can you. Okay.
Right, feel so, look at
We
so
start
many
to
things.
think too hard.
Right, we
on
tend
the
to think too
simplest
hard,
kind
right?
of question.
But if I have to give an answer to that, I would go back to my fascination and my interest, right? In terms of personal interest, believe it or not, I have this mad obsession about Harry Potter world. I'm pothead in that way, right? So I really love Harry Potter. And also one of the earliest game that I ever completed was Pokemon, right? You see. But then again, I feel that these are two westernized kind of thing, And after I got married, close to 3 years ago, I realized something that is missing in me is that, well, we never really appreciate our own culture and heritage, yeah? Claim to be a Minang, cakap Minang tak pandai sangat, So it gives a bit of impact to me, And looking at the new generation, I realized that, that heritage, the language part, the way our daily lives are being conducted, really having less and less value of Nusantara value, right? This part of the world. So if I were to make a game, most probably it's a fusion of Harry Potter open world with creatures like Pokemon flying around. But the catch is, you have to conduct your mission in a way that how all Nusantara folks do their daily business in our costumes, a Pendeka style or whatever, but in that kind of environment. I'm not sure if it can be pulled, but yeah, if I have unlimited budget, unlimited resources, probably that's the kind of game that I would make.
What would be the summoning or the casting spell word from Minang that you can do out?
Well, I guess there's a lot of things to ponder upon, but yeah, that would be it, probably. There's a fusion of few of my obsessions, yeah.
If I could pick, I would pick an era where all of us remember probably the greatest time when Malaysia or Malaya probably when it was the trading era, where a lot of other peoples from all over the world use our trading route, and then there's a lot of elements that I could pick out, like ships, ocean. There's gonna be villages, so I would think of like this, just a simple point and click game. In a full-on 3D environment. If you guys saw Sea of Thieves at E3, it was like really nicely stylized with the good-looking toon shader style, but heavily stylized with really cool ocean physics and all that. So it's like a high production value game, but I want it to be just a simple point and click like Treasure Island style. But it's about the trading era of when Malacca was great. But I wanted to put a spin to it where how can Malacca be great? You know, what happened to the other places? You know, I just want to put a spin where maybe there's a backstory or something. I need to do the research. I might hire a historian, you know, or anything I need to find out about what actually went on there, not on the mainstream history. Because I'm sure there's other stuff. You know, history is told by the people who won the war, right? So I wanna try to make a point and click game just to point out the stories or go through the stories of the people who actually lost that whole glory of Malacca. Who knows, maybe Langkawi was awesome back then, or you know, maybe East Coast was more awesome, because if you look at all the pirate golden age of piracy, it's a beautiful location. Who knows, maybe Selat Malacca looked like a very nice blue ocean back then, you know. So just to relive that era with a simple point and click game.
Cool. That's very interesting because you mentioned about the other side of story, because in history a lot of the things that have been told are the winners, right? The winners write the history, and you have how Malacca became great, but along the way there are other ports and other places around the region, and how we became great means there's something happening on the other side of the coin as well. Personally, to answer the question, to be fair, I'll answer the question as well. What I'll do if I were to make a game that infuse some cultural heritage, to me it'll be about a life of a schoolboy or girl in Malaysia back in the 80s and 90s. What I'm talking about is actually the kind of permainan or games that we do in school. And I think it's so innovative in that there's actually a strong culture that we have, like permainan pemadam, or Terengganu call it roba. Right, you play the pemadam, you play the tudung botol, right? You play a lot of games were created, and that shows how in need we are in games, and we just take anything, bottle caps, we took stones, we took anything, and we make a game out of it. And to me, that's something that a culture that should be encouraged in Malaysia and even externally, because kids need play, and these games build our characteristic. When you play, you bergaduh with your friends, or you actually quarreling because you cheated and whatnot, and that creates who we are. And I think that's a huge fabric of society that I grew up with, that I think some KL people, I still remember on Facebook, they shared this like only 90s or 80s kid will know kind of thing. And it's kind of sad when the younger kids go like, what's that? I played like Temple Run, Min and Rush, right? So as much I love the game industry, but I think games is beyond digital. Game is as entertainment medium exists before TV even existed. People need to play, and in whatever form, sports and whatnot. And I think we have enough unique culture, and I would love to study how other kids from other part of the world actually do their games. I know Brazilians do a lot of football. They essentially play football every single time or any time that they can. And they have football on the street, football on the corridor, football on the top of the roof. They play football everywhere. That's something that I got to know from my Brazilian friend. And I would love to know how the rest of the part of the world, because kids are sort of like the reflection of what's going to be in the future, because they're going to be the leaders of the future, and their experience will determine what they value in life, what cultural heritage that they value. And I see that if we can get that exposed to our youngsters, and I think our nation will be stronger to maintain our cultural heritage, right? So that's from my point of view. With that, we'll open the floor. If you have any question, you guys can have your drinks. Yep. Anyone have any question? Anything want to ask? Feel free. It could be related to the topic, not to the topic. Open up. Yeah, and boleh tanya dalam bahasa Melayu, no problem. Right?
Hentam je, kita orang lepak.
Okay, please start. Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Salam. I'm from Faculty of Animation, and I have two questions. First, what do you think for nowadays the quality of what is the most valuable things in making games or movies? Is it quality of the games or the contents of the games itself? And the second one, why do you think the most of the good games have a good trailer, but they don't make a movie of it? And that's all my questions.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, Salam. Okay, we'll go with the first question. Basically, what defines a high quality game? What makes a game really good? Is it the graphic? Is it like the gameplay? Is it like the experience? Is it like the team? What do you think from your personal point of view? Of course, most probably there won't be a correct answer, but what do you think makes a good game?
Okay. Fundamentally, it's a game you can finish making. Because the thing is, when you study the different genres of games out there, some games like RPGs are more focused on content. They want to show you the story, the variety of characters, the events touching the characters, and the programming for such an RPG is relatively simple compared to the amount of effort they put in content. That's how you actually make an RPG. And you can flip it and find a different genre where the programmable effects, the destructible environments, the explosions, they're what matters. Story, nobody cares. The content, okay, 5 single player level and you play the rest of the game in multiplayer. So for a game like Battlefield, they focus more on the quality of the gameplay as opposed to actual content. So there is no real measure which of these are better. It really depends on what kind of genre or what type of game are you making. But I say that what's really important is that it is the game you finish, because then you can bring it to people and they tell you whether or not it's good. And it is their word of mouth, their testimony that the game is good is actually what makes people buy games. Because, okay, let's think about it seriously. Why do people buy games? Do they actually buy a game because the game is good? But if the game is good, how do they know if they haven't bought it? Most of the time, it's because of good reviews, a good video of YouTube, and good recommendation from friends, or you try it out in your demo. A lot of it is actually promotions trying to convince you the game is good before you actually try it. The goal of all these promotions is to get you to put money into the game. And that's been twisted a bit in free-to-play gaming design, where you download the game for free, and the game's trying to convince you, buy this lah, buy this lah. But fundamentally, people judge games by whether or not they feel it's good and whether or not their friends tell them it's good. So the thing you need to do if you want to make a game is that you have to finish it. Then people will tell you, your content is nice, but your programming is a bit bad. Or the game runs really well, but can we know more about this character? Can we know more about the story? Then you know how to make it better. I will cite you, hang on. See, Junaidi was talking about Pokemon just now. Do you know where Pokemon came from? Okay, do you know the game, right? Everybody knows the game, right? Okay, here's the thing. The creator of the game is Satoshi Tajiri, and he was working with Nintendo when he came up with the game, but he did not come up with the game from scratch. And this is tied to what Buzz said about looking into traditional games. When he was a kid, there was a game he played with other kids among Japanese people. They would go into the forest, they would collect bugs, and specifically certain stag beetles. And these beetles, they would bring home, they would put it in a jar, they will feed it little pieces of food, and then when this beetle is big, they will go meet another friend who did the same thing. They will put these two bugs in a small arena and they will see them fight. This is the whole experience that Satoshi Tajiri converted into Pokemon. So when you create the game Pokemon, it's not the idea of this Pokemon trainer going to the Pokemon Center, collecting all these legendary Pokemons that actually made the game. It's the fact that Satoshi Tajiri studied how people actually play this bug hunting game and converted everything electronically so that it can be played in a digital setting. So when you want to copy, say, a local game, it's not enough that you just take a bottle cap game, just put bottle caps in there. You got to figure out, okay, why do we have bottle caps? Where did these bottle caps come from? Do people actually collect bottle caps? Because when people create a whole subculture out of this, they solve all the problems on what makes the game not fun. And when you convert all of that, that's what makes the game fun. Okay, a bit overdone there, but yeah.
So the first question was which one is more important in a game, right? Quality or content? it's hard because for me as an art director, it's always both. Content usually comes from the pressure of the product, the promise of the product, the vision of the product. Quality comes from us, like we want to push for quality from art, tech, rendering, all those. So there's always a balance, but if I had to make a pick, we always push for quality. Quality both in anything, visual, gameplay, narrative, immersion, all those, It could be, like Hilmi mentioned, some games, Battlefield, do a shorter story mode because everybody loves the multiplayer side of it. And because quality for that kind of product comes from this term called user tells their own story. What it means is that when they play the narrative part, they just follow through it, right? But when they play multiplayer, they can create these amazing stories among their friends and say, oh, we played last night's session. Did you see how we blew up the helicopter and then it crashed the boat, and then it exploded and killed 3 guys on the opposition team? So those are the ones that quality brings, not content. Content only brings just, halfway to it, because in reality, the story mode has a better visual quality than the multiplayer for performance reason. So just to put that into perspective, right? And then quality always goes up because up in the ranks because fun falls in quality. You can't quantify fun through context, right? If you say, yeah, it's a 48-hour game, you have 7 worlds, you can go through all of it, and 999 levels, that's just content, right? But if they only had 10 levels, but all of it are just quality, people will love it more than a 40-hour game. A 7-hour game could always win a 40-hour game, but a 7-hour Battlefield cannot win over the multiplayer of it. So I would pick quality.
The first question to ask is actually, if you are developing a game, right, who are you developing it for? Do you want it to be able to be liked by other people? So who are the people that you try to impress? If you have those kind of question, then you have the answer, then chances are you would know which angle to tackle your development skewed towards to, right? If you are making a game that is like a first-person shooter base, well, there's not much story to tell, really, So you got to go with the quality of, realistic guns, realistic explosion, so on and so forth. If you're trying to make a game that is story-based to appeal to people who like to do single journey game and just wander around for hours, you got to have unlimited content and stories. So it goes back to who you're building the game for, you see. But at this stage, my suggestion is don't care much about that just yet. Go back to what Hilmi said, just make something that you can actually finish building and be able to give it to someone else to have a taste, because that is when you learn the most. From then on, then you create your own formula, I guess, how to make it even better. Because I've seen many developers that have such amazing ideas, amazing story, quality work, before they embark into the whole journey. But the moment they start putting things together, they cannot even finish it. Why? Because they fail to have the core idea of finishing the game. They were so fixated on giving the best of explosion quality without thinking of whether the story can last or not. Or they're so fixated about creating story that requires 7 hours of wandering around, but cannot even think of a very good character to carry the story. I've seen that happen again and again. So I guess for now, at this stage of development, especially for the younger developer, Hilmi would make a very good point by just do something that you can actually finish building and give it to other people to try. That is the most important thing. And I like the second part of the question, actually. So many good games with super awesome trailer, but there's no movie coming out of that, right? There are a few.
But they suck.
But they suck, right? And one of the reason is the fundamentals of game, Buzz mentioned it way earlier, that game was designed to be interactive, yeah? You know, the fun happen when you have control over the story, over the gameplay, over the decision making of it, right? In a movie, you have no such control. The decisions are made for you, right? So the writer, the screenwriter that adapt a game product into a screen, for example, would have to make the decision for you. If by chance the screenwriter is a lousy game player, chances are you're going to be making all the wrong decisions that you won't be able to enjoy, right? And therefore, it's not that easy, and also to cram 100 hours of gameplay into 2 hours of screen time, and it doesn't work as well. And also, the truth is, commercial way of doing things is you always put the best part for the 1 minute trailer. Chances are you won't even get that in the gameplay. So it's not fair to base your expectation on 30 seconds or 1 minute of awesome game trailer and hope that you can get it in game. It just doesn't work that way. It just won't work.
But there are a lot of movies coming out from games as well. I think there are also movies that's coming into game. And I think what happened there was a cross of a different culture. I mean, filmmaking has been very much an artistic journey, and game development started as more of a engineering journey, which done by computer engineers hacking out machine, making out consoles and whatnot. So I think we are at the crossing point where both culture has to like agree to each other that we gonna per se cross the road along in between, and we see that some games like Batman did a really good job translating a movie IP into a game, and people love the game. And recently we just spoken to the lead game designer from Creative Assembly, who did the Alien Isolation. And when they start making the Alien Isolation game, they look back on the 1970s movie of the first Alien, and they're like, how do we make it right? And a lot of decisions they made was very, very interesting. For example, should there be only one alien, or should there be more than one alien? And they put a lot of thoughts into it. They research the movie, they look at the sets, they look at what makes the old movie work, and they go like, okay, the decision that we go with is one alien. Why? Because if you can kill an alien, then an alien is not scary anymore, right? So they make a conscious decision to make there's one alien that will be scared throughout the whole game, and the alien will just keep coming back at you. And they design game mechanics and gameplay that fits in well with that setting of the movie. And I think that's something that's happening more and more. And hopefully along the line you will have games who are made into movie, World of Warcraft, Assassin's Creed. There's a lot more coming up, and I hope the Hollywood directors and story writers and the script writers will do the same respect and probably explore the game for what it is, play the game enough and understand what the game offers to the user. Because if you're doing Assassin's Creed and the character don't roam around on the top of the roof, then you're probably like, that's not Assassin's Creed, it's all on the floor kind of thing, right? So you need that kind of level of respect to this, the cross medium per se. Hilmi would like to add something?
Okay. So just want to add one thing. We are getting a theme park in Malaysia out of that. But another thing that makes things difficult between film and games, and by the way, I talk a lot because I'm a lecturer. There are certain things that are easily done in film that are very hard to do in games. Generally, touch one of that is interactivity. If you want to tell a good story, interactivity makes it very difficult. To tell a good story, you need to have good control over what the audience will see. When a game is interactive, it's very hard to control what the audience will see. Sometimes they just go wherever they want. Another thing to consider is that certain things that it's easy to show in games, like robots and aliens, they're very hard to make it work in movies. Because the moment people try to do an alien, but they do not focus on the special effects and the way things are rendered, the way things are shown, it will actually look bad and people won't buy the illusion. Whereas, flip it around, doing humans is very easy in film. Because you have a lot of very good actors, and you can find good writers, and you can create a very human scene. But humans are one of those things that are very hard to do in video games. It's hard to get skin right. It's hard to get expressions right. So most video game projects tend to center on making monsters and aliens because it's easier. Most film projects tend to focus more on humans because it's easier. So when you try to translate something from a game like Halo into a movie, there's a lot of money that will be thrown in because you have to recreate the warthog, you have to recreate the armor, and somehow you have to make it look right. That's one of the reasons why the jump between the two franchises don't work well.
Good analysis. I was surprised that there's actually a huge difference because human in films is very common, whereas human in game we do first person. We avoid doing a lot of like games like Half-Life. You barely met anyone else except one more person, right? And that's the power of game because they try to create a world because the world is mostly fantasy and basically you don't have enough people to interact with. Whereas I think that it comes to the point that there are a crossroad like Assassin's Creed. I think Last of Us did a great job on creating human interaction and human emotion through the field. And I think along the way we will come to the point that we will enjoy both medium and there will be both IPs from both medium cross in between and we both enjoy them. Yeah, so Final Fantasy also tried back then, you know, the Spirits Within, right? So they had a movie made and people don't like Spirits Within when they like Final Fantasy. So things like that create a precedence that people are a bit hesitant in things like converted. But along the way, I think us creators will have to figure out a way to make it work. And as you see from games like Arkham City, who did the IP translation right, and hopefully there'll be a games IP that got translated right in movie. And I think people will believe more that it's doable, and it sets a precedent. And along the way, both culture will sort of like infuse each other and inspire each other to become better at what they do, right? Games with the interactivity, films and movies with storytelling. And one day, I think both will cross the road lah. Okay, thank you all the panelists for all the time that we have. I think we already like run out of time, so that's already 12. So thank you for listening to us. Hopefully you can take something back from whatever blabbering that we had. Hope you guys had fun. With that, I'll end the session. Feel free to network with us and ask questions off the floor later.
Okay, thank you to all the panels. Mr. Bas, Mr. Junaidi, Cik Alitt, and Cik Hilmi. Terima kasih banyak-banyak, and thank you for all the students. You guys stay there just for a while. We'll have a little